last time we met, we were in Clinton Hill, Brooklyn. Familiar block, familiar stoop, a stoop we sat on as kids. Where we at today?
So we in West Baltimore. My son and his mom lives in West Baltimore. We're at her crib.
Right.
Right.
Now, on the way here, you were telling me some unique things about this community. Fairmount Park, that's the name of it?
Fairmount Park, dude.
So it's kind of like an enclave. It's kind of like in the cut from true West Baltimore. Or West Baltimore proper.
Yeah, it's interesting because so when they describe Baltimore, and if you're a fan of The Wire, you've heard them talk about the two kidneys in Baltimore, or the butterfly wings and the spine. So the spine is north-south Baltimore. That's like, Johns Hopkins and that whole corridor to get you all the way down to the harbor. And then you have the wings of the butterfly, which are west and east Baltimore. And when you talk about socioeconomic challenges, when you talk about food deserts, which we literally noticed and saw on our drive here, when you talk about all of those things tend to exist, and crime and vacant homes, all of the things that we witness tend to exist in those butterfly wings, right? And so we're in the West Baltimore part. Now, smack dab in the middle of West Baltimore, and this is the case for almost every community that we talk about and that we reference. Last podcast, the same community, Brooklyn, but then there's these enclaves of straight amazing homes, amazing people, amazing Black people, amazing community, energy, and great places to raise kids. They exist in these neighborhoods. They're not what some politicians, business people, and other people tend to assume about these communities. And this is smack dab one of those. This is West Baltimore, which doesn't get the best public discussion, but within West Baltimore there's these amazing enclaves of space where community exists. Right. Black community exists, Black professionals, Black leadership all exists, and this is where we're smack dab in the middle of that.
So we're going to get into exactly why we chose West Baltimore for this episode, but I want to kind of start off because we're at the tail end of summer. Labor Day is a couple weeks out. I want to know, in terms of your work and in terms of your pleasure, what types of things have you been into over the summer?
So really where, since our last conversation, and what I've been focusing on, as a matter of fact, since January.
Because the last conversation was almost a year ago.
It was a year ago.
Yeah, it was a year ago. It was like last June.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked more than that, but I'm saying in front of the cameras, it's been a year.
That's right. And AI has had its ups, its downs, and it's really maintained its visibility in terms of the public persona, public eye. I've spent a lot of time trying to better understand exactly what AI is, as opposed to what certain voices are trying to make it out to be, and then also how best I can use AI, not only professionally, but also personally, to have an impact in certain communities. So really kind of dug in deep on modern AI, and really been thinking about the best ways to ensure we can maximize the impact that AI is going to have on us in our communities.
Now, I want to level set this conversation by what you do with regards to your work with AI professionally versus your independent research and passion for AI outside of what you do professionally. So let's start with the professional side. What is your interaction with AI professionally in your role?
So professionally, I work for Bezos Earth Fund, which and I'm the director of AI, so I fund organizations that are focused on using modern AI to have a positive impact on the earth. And that can be in restoration, conservation, climate, power grid, anything that has that impact in the climate and nature space. We think sustainable proteins is another domain. We think that AI can be a force multiplier in that space for people who are doing amazing work in the climate and nature space. And so my job on the daily is to find organizations to invest in, climate tech companies, if you will, to invest in, to make sure that they're maximizing the use of AI as they try to deal with climate change and conservation and so on and so forth.
Right. And then independently, I saw you post something. It's funny, I've known you damn near all my life, and there's still things I'm learning. You posted something about your passion for the stars the other day.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know.
No, I'm glad you brought that up, because it's interesting. So it's all connected, right? Like, so for me, and like you said, we've known each other all our lives. And one thing about me is that I don't just dig into computer science. You know, I've been in computer science all my life.
Right.
Okay. Used to when you ran for
Right, when I ran for treasurer, I told that story last podcast, right? You had the dot matrix printer that, you know what I mean? We had the long banner.
That's right.
Shout out to Miss Corbett.
So I've been on computer science for a long time. And so, but for me, it's not just, I can't just wake up and just jump into the computer science space. I have to have other things that get those neurons firing for me.
Right.
So I can't just do computer science and then eat and sleep and hang out.
Right.
Like, in order to really get my brain going, I have to delve into other intellectually and cerebral pursuits. So one of the things that I've taken up recently is astronomy, and really trying to better understand the stars. But it's connected. It's connected to one of the mental models that I have that help me understand and see AI the way that I think I should be seeing AI, which is, so when you think about how we are AI is talked about now, it's just specifically around Chat GPT or LLMs.
Right.
And it's just specifically about that.
LLM is large language model. Right.
Exactly. Which is the base foundational capability of like Chat GPT, Claude, and so on and so forth. But the way I think about AI and how I think about it at work when I'm investing in and funding organizations is that it is an enabling capability. So a mental model that I have is, we go all the way back in time and we think about when the telescope was invented. Did we have conferences to celebrate the telescope? Did we worship the telescope? Did we focus our energy on just how amazing this telescope is? Or did we use the capability of the telescope to see the stars, to see other planets, to understand the galaxy, to understand the universe, to understand how the galaxy, the stars, the universe, the moon impacts us here, to invent things like GPS, right? So the telescope opened up this whole new world of understanding and capability for us. It wasn't, so we had conferences about the stars, about galaxy, about the sciences, about astronomy. We did not have conferences about the telescope.
Right.
And so for me, every night that I'm able to take it out and really spend a couple of hours looking at the moon close up and looking at galaxies, Jupiter, Saturn, stars, and so on and so forth, it helps me process that AI is the thing that's going to allow for me to understand things that I just yet don't understand. And so what it should do, what I think it should do, is put everyone in the mindset of summarizing reports and writing your emails is the least interesting thing, the very least interesting thing you can do with AI.
That's like taking the telescope and looking in your neighbor's window.
That, and what's crazy is that's why you and I are how we are, is because was the exact way that I explained it to myself as well. It was like, yes, the same as just taking the telescope and then just looking into somebody's window and saying like, oh damn, this is crazy. That's interesting and it's fun, but it's the least
thing you could do with it. Right. Tell me some facts and fictions about AI and the workforce. Now you just brought, and this is a perfect segue because you just brought up the emails. Like I have what's the thing on Google now, Gemini. So like when somebody sends me an email, I want to reply, it already gives me 3 prompts. I never use the prompts. Like I'm an old school guy. I'm gonna tell you exactly how, if I can't use the prompts, but like that exists. I've heard people talk about, yo, I got these amazing prompts for ChatGPT. Yo, you put this in, man, everything is going to go better for you. What's the true facts and fictions about AI and workforce, and using that telescope paradigm? Where should people in various industries be looking to truly utilize AI in the way that they should be using it?
Such a good question. So I'll answer it this way, and I don't know that I'll give you some understanding that I have that are based on fact and reality. But I think that we're at a space where every one of us are going to be forced to think critically and think completely about the role AI has in our lives and in our communities and globally. Because I think it's still undecided. Anybody who's definitive about anything with regards to AI just doesn't know, right? There's no way you can really truly be definitive. So one of the quotes that I hear often is, you're not going to lose your job to AI, but you're going to lose your job to someone who's using AI. And I think that's such a misleading. So then what it does is it forces people into saying, well, I better learn AI and I better figure out how to use AI in my job. And so now let me figure out how to use
ChatGPT. Right.
But if you use first principles, right? Core ways, just core basic thinking. Let's not get too complex here. What is that statement saying? It's just saying what we've always known to be the reality about when you sit and you're interviewing for a job or you're working at a job and you're looking for a promotion, is the person who is the most efficient, who has the most output and maximizes output and is the most correct, right? And successful in their work and impactful in their work is the person that any company wants, right? So it's not that you'll lose your job to someone who's using ChatGPT. You will lose your job to someone who is more productive than you,
more efficient than you. Right.
Period.
Right.
Now, this goes to the story of man versus machine, John Henry, and so on and so forth, right? The question is, are we more efficient and more productive and more capable with AI than without? It really depends. To your point, I actually would rather write an email, take the time to write an email, and just use some grammar check, right? And then send it, because, hey, then now I got to spend time having ChatGPT, and then I got to make sure it's not hallucinating. Then I got to make sure that whoever reads it is not like, this ain't Amen. So I got to do all of this overthinking. And so I actually sometimes feel like I'm less efficient.
Right.
I give you another example. There were, when I was working on my doctorate, my PhD dissertation was on surgical simulation. So that is, one of the more known products that came out of space is the Da Vinci robot. It's a master-slave surgical robot. So a surgeon pulls into the robot, and the robot could be in another room, could be at another hospital, and is doing the steady hand surgery, right?
Like laparoscopic, is that?
Yeah, it could do laparoscopic surgery.
Right.
It's meant to be for small incision, and fairly precise, steady hand, the kind of surgery. You've seen it on they featured the Da Vinci robot on Grey's Anatomy. When I was working on it back in the early 2000s, it was like $1 million a pop, kind of situation. So there are surgeons who will tell you like, yo, it don't do nothing for me. I'd rather get in there with my hands,
right.
and get with it.
Right.
So there are surgeons who are far more efficient without the robot, right? And so, again, going back to that statement, like the core of that statement is around efficiency and impact.
Right.
If you can figure out a way to use AI to maximize your impact, more power to you. If you can figure out a way to maximize your impact and be more efficient without using AI, again, more power to you. But it's not. I think that conversation around workforce has to be dissected, because we're looking for maximally efficient people, and there are scenarios in which your efficiency and your productivity can actually go down if all you're doing is spending time futzing around with ChatGPT and trying to get it to say exactly what you want it to say.
Right.
Other thing is, now, what we are seeing is, there's less and less need for a number of programmers at companies. So what I mean by that is, I started off as a software engineer. You always want to have, as a software engineering group, you want to have 5, 10, 15, 20 people on any software engineering team. You want to have 2, 3 of them just rock stars, and then you want to have a bunch of backups, essentially, right? And that you have a strong engineering team, software engineering team, people that could do menial software engineering tasks, and then there's people that are just thinking of the craziest, dopest architecture, right? Now, you only really need 2, 3 rock stars, and then 2, 3 mediocre mid software engineers, and then now with other, they call it vibe coding, like you got it covered. So yes, your engineering teams don't have to be bloated, but it was never really meant to be bloated. That's what the market thought we needed anyway. But efficiency meant that, you probably shouldn't have a bloated team. But we had bloated teams because that was the way that teams were being formed back then. So that's shifting for sure. Less coders, but less entry-level coders. We still need rock star coders. Are you seeing how they're paying these AI engineers and AI researchers?
I just read on the train down that like the AI's created more billionaires in the last year or two than like in the previous 2 decades. Like people are just getting all types of money from AI coding.
Meta is trying to hire a bunch of AI scientists from OpenAI and giving them like NBA contracts.
Right.
100 million.
50 million.
250 million.
Right.
They're buying companies. So if you're a company of 2 people and you were making this dope software, they'll just buy your company for $1 billion, and they'll throw your company away, and then now you work for them. Right. So so they are looking for and searching for top rock stars. So there is still a need for programmers and developers. We just don't need mid programmers and developers.
Right. So in that particular industry, there's a shift to make it leaner.
That's right.
AI is causing your industry, that software engineering industry, to be leaner.
Exactly.
How about in the restaurant industry? How about in the hospitality industry? How about in healthcare and in security and, in all of these other fields, the cannabis industry, which is a burgeoning industry now in New York City? What do those people need to look for with regards to making their particular industries leaner and using AI? And how on earth do they do that? If I'm a restaurant owner, say I'm a successful restaurant owner, I got 5 restaurants. Where do I go? Who do I talk to to begin to understand how to be more efficient by using AI?
Yeah, like, so, all right. So I want to answer that question I have an interesting example from the government perspective. So I'm going to talk about how you can lean out. But broadly, let me answer your question by saying it really depends on the leadership of those organizations.
Right.
Right? Because like with anything, if you have leadership that is not sound or thoughtful leadership, they could just be going with the sign of the times and just say, look, let's fire half of the people here, let's just replace it with AI, and everybody's looking around at each other like, well, how do we do that? Like, what does that even look like? Do we invest in software? Do we have to build our own AI? Like, what does that? And so the implementation of it actually matters. So what I think you're going to see are a lot of failed attempts at this sort of cutting down of the workforce in a lot of those spaces that you talked about. And then realizing like, shit, we fucked that up. All right, let's hire back a lot of these folks and let's figure this out a different way. Like, I just don't think that, as a matter of fact, I'm clear on the fact that companies and organizations have not exactly thought through the how and the why, right? We're being told, and I don't know if I used this example in our last podcast, but I talk about this all the time. My puck analogy. Did I use my puck analogy?
No, I don't think you did.
So this was a quote attributed to Wayne Gretzky. He says he didn't say it, but it was attributed to Wayne Gretzky, where he says, good hockey players skate to where the puck is.
Right.
The great ones skate to where the puck is going to end up. So I take that analogy and I shift it into the AI domain. So when it comes to AI, government, always, invariably, you can set your clock to the ship, will skate to where the puck is, right? When you look at policy, how government thinks about policy, they wait for things to happen and then they assign policy, and then we're past that. By the time that law gets passed or that regulation gets set, people have moved on.
We talk about how slow political will is, right? By the time political will reaches a thing, we need to be 10 years in the future.
That's right. And then those gears to even get that regulation on the books and get the people to enforce the regulation and then get the agencies to manage it and so on and so forth, people have moved past it, right? So government always skates to where the puck is. Academia generally used to skate to where the puck will be, right? Advanced research. But now you're seeing private sector skate to where the puck is. Private sector is the one that's innovating and advancing. But I take it one step further. Private sector actually takes the puck and puts it where it wants it to be, and then everybody skates toward, right? And so that's what you see when you see private sector coming out and being like, you know, making these big announcements like 50% of the white collar workforce is going to go away in the next year and a half, period, thanks to AI. That's them picking up the puck and putting it. That's not them looking at, there's research that has been done that is looking at the trends, workforce trends, and they're like, the workforce trend says nothing.
So that's not a forecast.
It's not a forecast. It's them suggesting to you, I run this frontier model company and you see me as a god in the AI space, and I'm telling you what I believe is coming down the pipe. And it is meant to get you to react to it. As opposed to, like, I've seen the economic data. Like, you don't have any entity who has oversight over economic data saying the same thing. You have the tech companies telling you that. So that's them taking the puck and moving it, right? So one, we have to be thoughtful about the fact that, like, we're being shepherded and herded into this space, but are we really ready? So one, I think a lot of companies are gonna bumble around there, and they may find themselves, depending on how scrupulous the executives at those companies are, you might have some executives being like, all right, let's fire the guy. Said half the workforce is going to be done by 2027. So by 2027, let's fire half the workforce. And let's get some AI in here. And then, you know, his number two is going to be like, do you mean like Roomba robots, or do you mean like actual human robots? Like, what are we talking about? Like, I don't even know what I don't know, you know, so you may get a lot of that bumbling, and then they'll have to sort of react to that. I think when I think about efficiencies in AI, I could see government really taking advantage. The example I use is right here in Baltimore. So there's this big thing, and the people watching this can Google this. This just happened within the last month. The IG here in Baltimore came out with this report that about 2 years ago, Baltimore contracted with a company, with a consulting firm, to redo their website. And it was originally supposed to be like 800 grand. It turned out to be, the budget got ballooned to like 1.1 million. Then it is now 2 years later, it's late. In order to get it completed, the budget had to get ballooned to 2.2 million because they fired the contracting team and they brought it in-house to the Baltimore IT team.
Right.
And now the Baltimore IT team is like, we need another 1.1 million just to get this done. And so the website won't be done until next year.
That's wow.
So imagine a city like Baltimore just spent $2.2 million on a website that isn't even finished.
Right.
Now think about, it would take the three of us 5 to 15 minutes to have a skeleton of a website using AI. So imagine if the city topside really actually used AI and developed a website for $200K, right? There's got to be some human engagement. You say the taxpayers $2 million.
Right.
$2 million.
Right.
Imagine going through your books and seeing not where you're firing people, but where you're actually identifying places where you can save resources so that you can hire other people to do some of the things that aren't getting done, like picking up illegal dumping and so on and so forth.
Right.
So there are ways in government, and it's not even a question of efficiency equals fire half your workforce. Efficiency means have 5 people build a website for 10x less, and then take those taxpayer dollars saved and then move them over here and actually hire a group of people to do this thing that you've really been wanting to do in the city for a long time. So it actually technically could lead to you hiring more people to be helpful if you use AI in the right way.
But see, what I hear you saying, though, it's not really have anything to do with the AI as much as it has to do with the visionary of leadership in a particular industry. That's what matters the most.
100%.
I had a guy, I wanted to show you this shit, and I thought I had it pulled up. So the reason why I asked you about industry and it, right, is because, so I had somebody did a flyer. I was doing an event, and the person did the flyer, right? So it's a flyer company. It's a company that uses the flyer, they make flyers.
Yeah.
And I went about it like I would normally go about it. I sent him my information, my picture, the name of the event, right? I did it normally, like how I would normally do it. And I want to show you what the hell they came up with, bro, because this was ridiculous. And they didn't even have to do it, right? Like, you didn't even have to do what they did. They used AI. Here it is right here. You see that shit? Like, you ain't even have to freak it like that. You know what I'm saying?
They went overboard.
They wowed it out. And then I didn't see the flyer until the person, I was speaking at this event. I didn't see the flyer until they were already promoting it. Until this. That's why I took a picture.
Saw that joint.
And they got my name wrong. They called me Marlon Powell, right? But it's sort of like, in our communities, like you said at breakfast, this thing is like a toy. And it's not about efficiency or productivity as much as it is like when you get a new PS5.
I will double down on that statement. That's exactly right. So I have these mental models, right? That helps me think about these things. So I did the Wayne Gretzky puck mental model.
Right.
I did the telescope mental model.
Right.
Another mental model that I think about when I think about this is, and I think we touched on this a little bit, is the gold rush, right?
Picks and shovels.
Picks and shovels.
Right.
And what it comes down to is, and I see it more and more, even ever since our podcast last year, our conversation last year, more and more, it is, we love being the consumers.
Right.
We love being told what's interesting to purchase and use.
Right.
And not really maximizing its use in any real way.
Right.
So for us, we love each other peddling tools and technologies, because for me, so when I see Marlon at the bar, yo, what you been up to? Well, you know, I've been using this crazy tool called Graph AI that allows for me, I'm telling you, Marlon, this crazy. And so then that's my currency to convince you that I'm out here.
Right. I'm here. Right. I'm in a deep end. Right.
Like, and I'm and then what we're gonna do is, then at that point you're gonna say, where are you using that? Let me tell you the 3 tools I'm using.
Right.
You crazy. I'm killing it with these tools.
Right.
And then we just going back and forth,
Right.
not making a single dime
Right.
off them, not really knowing how to use them in any real way,
Right.
not knowing that these are kids' toys that folks are creating for us to use, that will go out of style in the next 6-7 months. Nobody's going to even be thinking about these tools, because the next set of tools are going to come, then the next set of tools are going to come. And it's just us playing in a sandbox, and we're just in a sandbox playing around, while unbeknownst to us, the whole world is shifting in a way to use AI to change our reality. An example I would give you is, you think Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and Richard Branson are fucking around when they're sending spaceships
Right.
into orbit?
Right.
No, they when I worked at NVIDIA, I sat in meetings with people who have been paid hundreds of millions of dollars to come up with plans for how to build cities on Mars. That's their only job right now, is to architecturally build the capacity to have cities on Mars. Then there are people who are thinking about how do we have cities underwater? Whole cities, not, you know, like
Not a dome, not a little, no, an entire working city.
Functioning city underwater.
Right.
And we over here playing with ChatGPT.
Right. We over there making flyers.
making wild AI flyers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that's the thing that keeps me up at night.
Yeah.
Is what are the things that we're not paying attention to?
Right.
And what AI is really truly meant,
Right.
the role is really truly meant to have in our society, and the impact it's meant to have. And it's going to be in things that we can't think of today. It's not going to be, what I find fascinating is when people are consistently selling themselves as AI consultants, and their only job is to teach you how to better use OpenAI,
Right.
and ChatGPT, how to
Right.
use ChatGPT to make your resume.
That goes back
and so on and so
to
forth.
the prompts. That go
Yeah.
back to what, yeah.
The best. I got the best prompts to do this,
Right.
and then you feed it into this tool, and then you feed
Right.
it into this tool. Next thing you know, you have a Disney version of yourself
Right.
talking about something. That's Disneyland shit. It's Disneyland shit compared to when I did my PhD dissertation, was in 2008. 2008. Mine was on surgical robots. Things have shifted so much since then. That was the important AI innovation of the time.
Right.
You think we've regressed to, well, we help with websites, and we help you turn yourself into a Disney person,
Right.
and
Yeah,
make an
gorillas
avatar?
talking and driving cars in the video. Right.
Yo, the game, there are industries being, you think that companies are investing hundreds of billions of dollars on data centers so that you can have a way to create that flyer quicker?
Right.
No, we're creating whole worlds using AI. right? And the capability to do that. Shifting materials. There is research being done on creating new materials. How do we, for instance, there's research at MIT that's being done on how do we use AI to take garbage, just everyday garbage, and mix that with other materials just to make the most powerful and the strongest cement that we possibly can, so that we can build better, stronger homes. These are the conversations that I prefer to be in than which app are you using to help your business sell 2 more widgets. That's the least interesting thing that people are talking about when it comes to AI. So those are the things that I'm sort of broadly focused on.
Let me ask you something, because we both got children. Actually, our children are related to one another. With Kenji, what, because, you know, and I like the direction of this conversation, because it's really, I mean, we're discussing AI, but we're not discussing AI. We're discussing mental models to kind of apply, not just in your use of AI, but in your use of everything in every space. So with regards to Kenji and his education pathway, his art, what are some of the, if there are, AI tools or AI paradigms that Kenji is engaging in? And, you know, where should kind of that focus be? Because, like, I'll tell you what my children do. Delasi and Michaela love Roblox. And they on Roblox to the level where they have private servers, They have little areas where only they play, you know what I'm saying? And they've found an amazingly comfortable space for them in Roblox, right? But they're not availed to AI in that sense. With regards to Kenji, he's 12 years old. What type of things are you availing him to mentally that connect with the AI era?
That's such a good question. So I think about that, and I talk with him about this a lot. So the thing that I focus on with Kenji now are identifying challenges, right? So wherever we are, whatever we're doing, I want him to consistently think about how could and how would I solve that with AI, right? So less thinking about the technology of AI, more thinking about how can I make things around me better? The people that I care about. You know, do I have an ailing grandmother, an ailing grandfather? Could AI have been used to be more helpful with them? Could AI be used to help me and my friends think about, you know, building our own car from scratch, so on and so forth, right? So I spend a lot of time with him, sort of having conversations where he and I are out and about, or watching something, and say, you know, thinking about what would you do? How would you make that better? Do you think AI can be helpful here? Do you think AI can be helpful there? We have really good conversation. It's about training his mind to understand what the complexities of life are, and to understand those, and then to understand the role that AI has to play. An example, a real world example of that is sustainable proteins, right? How do we make plant-based burgers smell, look, and actually taste like plant-based burgers, so that no one can tell the difference at all, right? And so if Kenji is like, yo, I love hamburgers, which he doesn't. It's like, I love hamburgers, but I don't like the impact I don't like, you know, how they treat cows, and I don't like the negative impact that farming cows has on carbon emissions. So I'd like to think about how to use AI to create a whole new choice of meat, you know, that's healthier and more sustainable, so we can make it available to everyone without feeling like we're like making a certain animal extinct, and so on and so forth. Those are the things that he should be thinking about. Not so much the AI part of it, but where in our world can we make the world better, and think about the role AI could play in that. So I think about that with him a lot. The other thing that I think about with him, and he and I have had this conversation, is when we look at the education system, we all have been sort of herded into this standard education system that says, first grade you're learning this, second grade you're learning this, third grade you're learning all, fourth grade you're learning so on and so forth. When you look outside in other countries, like they're far more aggressive. I lived in Hong Kong for a while, and it was a time in Hong Kong, and I don't know if it's still the case now, where it was illegal for your child to study past a certain time at night. So they used to have police officers patrolling neighborhoods, and if they saw lights going on, they would knock and they would make sure your child wasn't studying, because what was happening was the parents were forcing their children to study damn near 24/7.
Right.
And then it just created, a set of kids that just weren't really good at much anything else, because they weren't getting sleep and nourishment and so on and so. They were just studying.
Right.
So you had instances where, that was going on. But imagine if at birth you were using AI to enhance how any child learns what they normally would learn. So now you're 2xing, 3xing, 5xing the rate with which they can process things, right? Because now we leave our learning up to a few things. I'm not an educator, so I'm gonna miss the boat on this. You may have a lot of comments about this, but one is what we see, how we learn from our external environment, right? What we take in. You see a car rolling, there's one in the field, you process these things. And then there are things that when you go to school, you sit down and the teacher teaches you times tables, so on and so forth. The bottleneck in that learning process is what that teacher knows and how they teach it. Now imagine if you could 5x that, what they know and how they teach it. With AI. So now, where normally by 10th grade you should be learning calculus, and I'm just positing here, hypothetical. What if you can enhance the process of learning such that by like 5th grade they're learning calculus, right? And they're processing it well, and they're understanding it, right? And then now this child is ahead of their time. Imagine by the time they hit college, the concepts that they're processing are even more developed, and that's where you get innovations, and that's where you get inventions that take our civilization to the next level.
I say that a lot when I explain intelligence in my words. What I say is it's the ability to process information. And with Michaela, with Delasi, I'm very clear with them on the need to be productive at processing information, right? My father used to be like, if I said, like, he would ask you, well, what do you think about this? And the common answer a child would give you is, I don't know. I don't know. And he would be like, I didn't ask you what you know. I asked you what you think, right? And that turnkey develops in you the need to process information, right? And the quicker and the more efficiently you process information, the more intelligent you are. The more intelligent you appear to the real world. So what you're saying is that AI can aid in the ability for education to be streamlined into a child, which would then allow a child to process information quicker.
100%. Imagine going to the zoo. The child goes to the zoo, and everything they learn is in this process of they're around their friends, they're hungry, it's hot or cold, kids are hitting each other and all this other stuff, and then you got some weirdo zoo, tour guide that nobody's paying attention to. They don't want to be there. You don't want to be there.
Because as a parent, I definitely don't want to be there. I never want to be there. But yeah, you're right.
And so it's this environment, and then the zoo person is talking about this animal, and it intrigues you, but it's so much else going on, like you don't really focus on it. So imagine just going home and and flipping the switch on your system and just having a conversation with just I saw an interesting animal today at the zoo, and then you just literally start asking and learning and learning and learning. That process, you just 5x'd what you learned, where we normally would say, oh, we took the kids to the zoo and they learned about animals and they are so smart about animals. They only were able to process but so much. But imagine having an easy way of expanding on that in a simple format. You do that 5, 10, 15, 20 years in the future, you're going to start looking at, we're going to start looking at our children and being like, yo, I never thought about stuff when I was 20. I never thought about intellectually things the way you're thinking about. They're going to be processing all sorts of concepts that are foreign to us because they've surpassed our ability to process information because they have all of these additional ways to add on to their information processing. Right. So that's where I think the value, one of the values for AI for our children, definitely will come into play, which is enhancing, augmenting, not just relying on, well, I got them into a good school, or I moved into this good area for this good school. Like at a certain point, it shouldn't matter what school they go to, what tour guide they get at the zoo. None of that should matter. It should be how you have it set up to augment their curiosity, and then take off.
I want to talk about, at the beginning I said we were going to talk about why we here in West Baltimore. I want to talk about the project that you're working on. And I kind of want to, you and I have had conversations about it, but I want you to kind of clarify it for me so that I'm under better understanding, because this is your lane. Now, if it was a block party, it would be my lane, right? But you're working on a project that involves illegal dumping in this community.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Absolutely. So this is good, and I love the way you're connecting all of these pieces, because it goes to the conversation we were just having around understanding what's going on in your environment and then trying to think of ways to solve those problems using new and modern AI capabilities. So as we mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, my son and his mom live here in West Baltimore. So this is this amazing enclave and this amazing space. But right behind is a trail that's covered by tree canopy. And as you saw us driving in, around us are just vacant houses, beyond what the eyes can see, dilapidated homes and so on and so forth. So what happens is, as people are emptying those vacant homes, they're dumping the stuff right back here because this tree canopy, so you can pull in, you can dump the stuff, and you just keep it moving. There's no lights back there, so at night it's like pitch black. When I drive, I have to put on my high beams just to get around, and they dump stuff back there. We'll stitch in some video.
Yeah, we're gonna go there. Yeah, we're gonna take a walk.
So she called me up one day, because again, when we talk about community is about taking care of your community. It's not just moving in and taking advantage of all of the amazing things about the community. It's about also taking care of it. So she called me up one day. She hadn't been living here for like 6-7 months. So she called me up one day, like a lot of people tend to do, and be like, yo, we have a problem with illegal dumping not far from here. Do you know any AI solutions? Like a lot of people always call me up and be like, yo, do you have an AI solution for this, right? Yeah, exactly. I said, the short of it is, I was like, with some of the organizations and companies that I've invested in, I've seen where they've used AI in other spaces that could be used here. So first things first is, you have to have data and information about the landscape. So what I did was I purchased 2 drones, photogrammetry drone and a LiDAR drone that takes both types of photos of the area. Now, what's important about the LiDAR drone is that the LiDAR shoots lasers down, and then they come back up in split second counts, millions of it. So it basically tracks contours, right? So you can actually track in an area when it's a smooth contour and then when
it's rough, right?
Bumpy. So then you can use AI, where AI tells you that contour wasn't there yesterday,
right?
And also, I think those are tires, or I think that's a refrigerator, or I think that's a set of mattresses,
right?
Like, because you train it on this data and it is able to identify it. And so there's a few steps to this. The first step is identification, being able to identify the trash that's being dumped. The second step is taking data from other scenarios like open data portals and so on and so forth. So for instance, if you're sending your drone daily and it's tracking over time these shifts in contours, and then you can also take pictures, but especially during the summertime, because the tree cover, you really can't really take pictures, aerial pictures. You're just really getting like a LiDAR contours. You're getting those contours and it's like, yeah, these are changing this frequently, every 6-7 days. And imagine going to a city database and then seeing, oh, not far from that area, on these days where we've seen those contours shift from a smooth contour to a bumpy contour, there has been permitting for gutting out vacant homes, right? And so you can make, I'm not saying that that's the correlation that we would make, but once you have data like we're capturing, you can actually, and I say we, that's me and Kenji, because he's on my hip as we're working on this stuff. Once you have that data, then again, you can use AI to identify those patterns. Patterns across the city. So imagine if we flew these drones across the whole city, imagine how we can understand. And you guys saw when we were driving here, the trash that was all over West Baltimore. Right. Imagine, and then take that. And I think this is such a great conversation. Take that. Just recently in Baltimore, and your viewers and listeners can Google this as well. Just earlier this year, DPW agency was under fire because a worker was killed working. He was hit by a truck while he was working, cleaning up trash out of the alleys. So then they did this whole thing. They went to city council. They testified in front of city council, and it was like, yo, we don't get paid. We don't got no money. The unions are killing us, so the union's not helping us out. The only way I can make ends meet is if I'm working overtime. So the only way that I can actually pay my bills is if I'm working overtime, and that's barely enough. And I got to fight with the drug dealers when I go into these alleys because they want me out the alley, but I got to come in here and clean this trash up, and it's just terrible work conditions. But imagine if you can be more helpful in terms of precision and accuracy on where to go and when to go to pick up trash, that you could actually enhance the quality of life for DPW workers in Baltimore if you had the data about what was going on and when it was going on, right? So X out the equation of enforcement for a second. Forget enforcement for a second. That's its own thing that, we can go into. But just making city workers feel like their efforts are not for naught, because there's trash that gets put there, then it gets cleaned up, and then just a couple days later it's trash again. Then it gets cleaned up, and then a couple days later it's trash again. And we're not talking about just like some cans here, and
no, we're talking about
dumping whole insides of homes out on that trail. And so imagine the quality of life that you can bring to public servants like DPW workers if you're using AI in a real way. So again, this goes back to your whole point around reality around workforce development. We haven't talked about firing anyone. It's actually enhancing
the quality of their work,
of their work, and the quality of life for the residents as well. Right. And so this is a project that I've undertaken personally, working with my son, and trying to bring some community entities into play. It's very difficult.
I was gonna ask, how's that going?
You know, it takes a number of things, right? Like it takes people to trust that AI can even be useful in this space. And that's still a conversation we talked about at the beginning. That's still a conversation that needs to be had. People have to feel like you're not selling them some Star Trek bullshit. You know what I mean? So that's not easy to get nonprofit organizations that are used to working with entities where it's like, look, all you need is 12 people and we'll go and we'll do this work, right? They're used to, let's get some shovels, let's get some, whatever brooms, and let's clean up this area. They understand that, community organizing. They don't understand the conversation around, look, we can actually, we invest in these drones and this technology, we can actually do this and
actually predict, right.
So it's a teaching. It's teaching. I'm learning, they're learning. I'm teaching, they're teaching because I'm learning from them. But the way you make these sorts of things, I've learned in my life, the way I make these sorts of things successful is you just got to keep pushing.
Let me ask you, tell me something that you've learned from this project that you may not have had a clear understanding of prior to it.
That's such a great question. Let me take a second to think about that, so I can give you a good answer, because I love that question. I think broadly speaking, I know one of the things that I learned, I spoke to someone at the Maryland Department of Environment, and they tied in, because I reached out to him because I just wanted to understand if I was thinking about this correctly. Like, am I crazy? Like, is this supposed to be this way? Like, and he was like, look, there's not enough resources. There's no cameras to track in those areas. And so, yeah, this happens. And it's happening not only here in Baltimore, it's happening in Philly, and it's happening in all these urban centers. One of the things he said to me, he got really emotional about this conversation around illegal dumping, because he was like, you got to imagine these kids that live in these neighborhoods, when they walk outside their homes and they see mounds and mounds of trash, the actual impact it has on their self-esteem. So he tied, and I hadn't thought about it. I knew it was like, from the standpoint of, in buying a house in an area, the value of that house and so on and so forth. I knew, and how you want to upkeep your community and quality of life and all that stuff. But he tied it into, they see themselves. That's how they see themselves, as trash, because every time they walk out their home, all they see is overflowing garbage and overflowing trash. And he's like, so I used to have these scenarios where I would take a group of kids and we would go around the neighborhood and we would clean up. And he was like, but what was crazy was, the same group of kids, after, I would take them to the store, buy them soda and food and all this other stuff. You know where I'm going.
Yeah.
They would eat it, and then they would throw the trash
shit in the
on the
street.
ground.
Right.
After they spent the whole day cleaning up trash in the neighborhood.
Right.
Right. And so he's been working in this space for years.
Right.
And that's one of the other important things, is like, just because AI, don't just rock up in some domain, in some space, and act like you the rock star in that space. Like, there are people who have been working hard in that domain, in that space, for decades upon decades. You need to utilize their expertise and bring AI to the table.
Right.
But yeah, he tied it into like a clean community and a clean neighborhood has such a big and vital impact on self-esteem. And how that person sees themselves in the world.
Right. It's, in my political life, we study the social determinants of health.
Right.
And we know that if a community lacks nutrition and healthcare and education and upkeep and maintenance, and if I wake up every morning and there's piss in the elevators and there are drug addicts downstairs and I have to deal with mentally ill people on my way to school and then on my way back from school, and my mother has to work from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and my older brother was killed and we've never had consultation or therapy from that, we know that it creates an unhealthy child
Yeah.
in an unhealthy environment.
Yeah.
Um,
I'll share an anecdote from, like, it's not as profound as what you just said, but it made me think about this, and I don't know if I ever told you this story, so I'm gonna tell it here. So when I graduated undergrad, I went out to Chicago and I was working at Motorola as an engineer, right? And so I was an intern out there, and I was staying in this area called Schaumburg, and Schaumburg at the time had like one of the biggest, most high-end malls in the country. It was called Woodfield Mall, and I was making a little bit of money. I was living in Schaumburg, Illinois, working at Motorola. Motorola had a big campus out there. And I was making a little bit of bread. And you know what it is. You make a little bit of bread, you got to get some shines. Right. You know what I mean? Like, coming from Brooklyn, this is the first time I'm out, not staying in Brooklyn for the summer.
right.
And you got a couple extra dollars. You go down Fulton Street, downtown Brooklyn. You get yourself some shines. Get a little bracelet,
A little bracelet, right? A little chain, right?
So I'm out here in Woodfield Mall, and I remember I was with a girl, and we go to a jewelry store in the Woodfield Mall. I'm like, yeah, let me get me a little bracelet or something, a little white gold bracelet. Try to hurt him a little bit while I'm out here in Chicago. So the dude, I tried on whatever. It was like $100 and something or something like that. So I'm like, I'll take it.
Right.
So he starts to wrap it up. So I say to my man, yo, you not gonna test that? Right? And he looking at me crazy. And the girl is looking at me like, what the fuck are you talking about? He's like, yo, what are you talking about? I say, yo, you just gonna give it to me like that? You're not gonna test it in front of me to make sure I know that it's real gold? And only until then did I realize, later on that day with conversations with other people, that the way we grew up in Brooklyn, when you bought gold from anywhere, they had to
test that shit. Right. You got to test that shit.
And so like how you grew up really dictates how you see the rest of the world.
Right.
And how you believe the rest of the world sees you.
Right.
And that was just a small funny anecdote situation of like me being,
I know he was looking at you like you was crazy. Like,
he was looking at me like, yo, what are you talking about? Right. Like, where's Zales? To me, Zales was like,
where's Zales? What the fuck is you talking about testing? Yeah. So yeah, that leads me to this question then. You're a black man that grew up in the hood.
Yeah.
No silver spoon, no extra resources other than the love and commitment of family and tribe.
Yeah. And friends.
And friends, right?
Right?
Yeah. And you now sit in a position of leadership in AI, but outside of that, you also sit in a position of sage wisdom with regards to how you perceive the world based on your experiences.
Right.
And now we're sitting in West Baltimore and we're talking about illegal dumping and all of the cataclysms that happen in the hood.
Yeah.
How do you juxtapose that on a daily basis? Like, how do you, and that's not even the question I want to ask you. I want to hear how you, but I want you to really talk about why you, because a lot of times, one of the issues I have in community back in Brooklyn, and I talk about this in our community, is this idea of absent black capitalism. And what I mean by that is this. I'll give you the example of what I mean. I live in Clinton Hill. Let's go to Bed-Stuy. Let's go to Quincy between Marcus Garvey and Lewis, right? Man went to Howard University, got his Juris Doctorate from Howard. He's a lawyer. Woman went to Spelman University, got her MBA from Columbia. She works in education. The two of them buy a brownstone in Bedford-Stuyvesant, right? They're not from Bed-Stuy, but they bought a brownstone in Bedford-Stuyvesant. He makes $220 a year. She makes $170 a year. Combined, they make almost $400,000 a year. They got all the bells and whistles in their brownstone. They don't need tenants because they are, upper middle class, close to wealthy, right? Their kids go to Brooklyn Friends. And every day, that man and woman leave their house on Quincy and they walk down Marcus Garvey to the A train, and they never, ever connect with the community that they're in. They never work on a community garden. They never host pantry. They never service the community. They're black like us, but from a capitalist mindset, because of their space, they can afford to disengage in a way that others can't in that same community, right? And because of that, their resources are not cooperatively shared, right? His wisdom. I mean, the money is one thing, but the wisdom, the referrals, like, yo, your son, okay, look, let me put him in this situation, right? Community is lost because they feel detached because of their capitalistic status.
Right.
You got the same status.
Yeah.
If you chose to, Amen, you ain't have to do none of this shit.
Yeah.
You could kind of just like chill.
Right.
You don't have to engage.
Right.
So I want to hear, that's what I'm saying. I know the question was how, but it really is why. Why do this? Why put yourself in a situation where you spend all of your free time positing on how to help a community that you're not even from?
Right. I mean, that's his own podcast, and not just me. That's like a bunch of people you got to have, because there's a lot of ways to look at it.
Right.
So,
Yep.
All right. So let me first say how this happened. So you talked about how we, broadly how we grew up in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, la. So, and I just talked about Motorola and my time at Motorola. So when I moved out to Motorola, I wasn't around anybody like me, and I was so uncomfortable. It was my first time not spending the summer in Brooklyn. So I'm out there as an intern, and my roommates were these smart. One dude, there was 2 Indians, one white guy.
Right.
They put 4 of us into a unit, shared unit, apartment unit. I was so uncomfortable, out of my zone. And so I called my moms and I was like, yo, 2 weeks of being an intern here will have garnered me more money than I've made in any other summer prior. So I'm out.
Right.
After a week.
Right.
Because I already did a week. I'm like, one week and I'm out.
Right.
She's like, nah, you need to stick it out. I'm like, nah, I'm out. She calls my pops. My pops calls his brother, who has a close friend, Dr. Conrad Warrell, in Southside Chicago. Conrad calls me up, like within a day or 2 of me having this conversation with my mom, calls me up and says, hey, young blood, you need to come, you out there in Schaumburg, Illinois, which is the suburbs, it's Chicago land, it's the suburbs of Chicago.
Right.
I said, you need to come Southside Chicago. So he has his admin, because he runs this, he was the director of this spot called the Center for Inner City Studies. She's a community organizer, well-known, well-respected community organizer in Southside Chicago.
Right.
He has his admin give me directions to the center to come meet him Saturday. So I had this conversation with my mom on a Thursday. I'm having this conversation with him on a Friday. He's like, yo, you coming out to Southside Chicago to spend time with your family. I don't know this dude from a can of paint. So 2 things happened that Saturday. I took public transportation all the way from Schaumburg, Illinois to Southside Chicago. Little did I know, son, there these projects in Southside Chicago, they're not there anymore. They were called Ida B. Wells.
Ida B. Wells, yeah.
Son, the Center for Inner City Studies was right in Ida B. Wells. He gives me instructions, public transportation. Son, I get off the bus. I'm like, yo, these is the J's.
Right.
Like, and then he gave me instructions to walk straight across through
straight
the J's to get to the center. I'm shook, but I don't really know where I'm at. I hadn't learned about, like, the atrocities that will go down in Ida B. Wells, like how the 2 different gangs would shoot at each other from the different houses. And that's where they pushed the 1 kid off the roof at, was the Ida B. Wells housing. That's why they ultimately tore him down. So I come to the center. He like, yo, you with family. Yo, he took me to this diner, then took me to Farrakhan's crib, which was in Hyde Park. So he took me to this diner in Hyde Park, Farrakhan's crib, and then the next day, we did a house. He had a family reunion, and he took me on this bus trip on a family reunion. So, and he's like, I don't know none of these people,
Right.
but he's like, yo, you family,
Right.
you family.
Right.
And that's when I realized from the outside in was that the only way that I can be successful here is if I maintain my family and my relationships here. That was the defining moment for me in understanding that I can't separate these two. You know, I tried to, I'm gonna do my computer science thing and I move out here and I'm gonna do this, but I needed the community to not only ground me, but then also make me feel comfortable and give me power and strength.
Right.
And so with that in mind, since then I've always understood that no matter where I go, whether I'm working at NVIDIA as a senior principal scientist, making mad dough, at NVIDIA, Motorola, Johns Hopkins, teaching at Hong Kong University, I always had to maintain that connection to the communities that I'm from, whether that's Chicago, Southside Chicago, Brooklyn, West Baltimore, it didn't matter. I always had to maintain that relationship because I knew that that's where my strength,
That's where your strength
and my
lies.
focus came from.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that was the scenario that.
But it's also purpose driven. It's like you have in you a purpose of translating what you experience into something that can be palatable
100%.
in community.
100%.
And that's even why we even doing this. That's what this is here.
I think that's exactly the other part about it. And that also contributes to my frustrations. My frustrations come in the, over time, the lack of connectedness between these worlds that you talk about and the challenge. And you sit there as well is how do we bring these communities together
Right.
such that it can be more symbiotic
Right.
than adversarial
Right.
or disparate.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
And you outlined it in that story that you told, that sort of archetypal sort of a couple and so on and so forth that you told. That's exactly the disconnect. Like they could literally live smack dab in this community, but be so disconnected from it.
Right.
But there is, and so that makes making those connections even more complex because it's not just place-based.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's in your mind. It's in
It's in your heart. It's in your spirit. It's how you move.
Yeah. So this is how they suspected with the tree cab.
So they stuck it under here.
They thought,
So let me ask you, when you fly your drone,
yeah.
are you only catching this roadway or are you catching everything?
LiDAR goes through tree canopy.
Right. So it could go all the way down.
Yeah, all the way down.
And then AI determines what's here.
Yeah. It could literally tell you this area right here, this wasn't this way before. It could tell you that cover, that plastic cover, is something new that's on this shit. And once you measure, right? You know that age-old adage, what gets measured gets improved upon.
Right.
We haven't been able to measure this type of stuff. So once you're able to measure it,
Then you can
come up with all sorts of ideas. When you have data on it, you can come up with all sorts of ideas on how to manage it.